All right, welcome back. You're listening to State of Arrest. Chris O'Toole, Bill Dorenzo, me, William Moore. We're talking about the Elbo Room case, what many people describe as a technicality when somebody gets off of a criminal charge because the police made some kind of mistake.
Mistake? They lost all the evidence.
Tell us, Chris, why don't you tell the audience what we're talking about.
Elbo Room case, about 7 years ago. There's a shooting, the guy dies, the guy's charged with the death, the evidence is gathered. Fast forward 7 years later, police want to clean out their lockers, they destroy the evidence, they throw it away, and now the defense has filed a motion to dismiss because they now can't see the evidence and it can't be introduced at trial. So, what happens?
Yeah, actually, Bill, we had a case like this that is still in litigation where the cops threw away a GoPed.
Yes.
Where there was a death.
Yes.
Right. Now they have it hasn't reached dismissal at this juncture yet, but of course it's not 7 years old.
What they do on your GoPed case?
Oh, well, let's focus on the Elbo Room case. Right now, it's still in litigation as to whether or not it's best not to talk about it too much.
Gotcha.
But my point is that how does that happen? I mean, it's marked evidence. It's a first-degree felony. There's been a death, and they're clearing out the evidence room, and so they start throwing away items, major items, vehicles, in open, impending cases in Broward County.
Here, they threw the gun away. I mean,
let's throw the gun away.
I mean, everything. It's incredible. And so what do you do if you're the judge? You know, you have to dismiss the case.
Well, I guess it depends on the nature of the evidence that's thrown away. I think the firearm is definitely a major piece of evidence for the state when you're talking about a death that occurred by shooting, and the ballistics had been done and a trigger traced back to this firearm. But was it given away, or does it belong to some officer now, or was it auctioned off?
They threw everything away. It was like spring cleaning for the police.
You know, the funny thing is some police departments actually have policies that say that they're going to get rid of this stuff after a certain amount of time.
I think that might be what happened here.
You know, and I know in particular, I believe it's the Florida Highway Patrol. I know I've had experience with DUI videos that after 2 years, they get rid of the DUI videos. Doesn't matter if the case is open, they don't make any telephone calls, they don't do anything. 2 years, they get rid of the video. And the prosecutor doesn't have a copy of it, the DUI video is gone. And we're in the same situation that we're talking about with the Elbo Room.
Which is why in 99.9% of cases, and we tell this to our clients all the time, the longer period of time you could put between the alleged offense and the resolution, whether it's a plea or a trial, the better.
Yeah.
Almost exclusively.
Okay, clients say, "Oh, hurry up in my case." No.
Yeah.
Well, we're about a month away from them destroying the evidence per their procedures. Why don't we wait it out, right?
Yeah,
Wouldn't that be the idea?
Good things can happen.
Yeah. Wow. All right, so throwing away the evidence, not a good idea. Having a policy to throw away the evidence as far as a police department is concerned, not a good idea. I mean, can't cost much to store things under lock and key and under protection, right?
Especially when you're dealing with a murder case. You know, you might want to keep the evidence around until the appeals are exhausted.
What about the drugs? Are they keeping the drugs around? Disposing of those.
When I was a prosecutor, I can't comment on what we used to do.
I'm on the drug disposal team of our drug center crime lab. Anyway, right?
That's funny. They're funny.
Right. Seriously. We had that happen. It wasn't under any procedures to dispose of cocaine.
Right.
But we had that woman in the crime lab that was weighing evidence, and it wasn't jiving up with what the police were collecting.
Right.
And cocaines were missing a couple grams here and there.
On that one, I think there's still evidence. It's just less weight.
Yeah.
So it's I think it's a little different than
They tossed those cases.
throwing away.
Yeah.
Tossed them.
They all were tossed, or did they work them out? Some of them
Tossed them.
Well, the Elbo Room case is going to get tossed. Has to get tossed.
And it involves a murder.
Yep.
First degree murder.
Yeah, the guy's going to walk. And good for him. I mean, the police need to hold on to evidence.
And then will the state, the county raise sovereign immunity when would there be any type of lawsuit? I mean, you would think there's no standing for a lawsuit, really, would there? You lose a loved one, the person that clearly could have been convicted.
That's a good
Got the
question.
presumption of innocence, though, so innocent until proven guilty.
That's a good question, but there's a different standard in civil, so it's more likely than not. But
do you
what
have
would
a
you be
cause of
sued for?
action, right? Do you have a cause of action? Your damages are the fact that somebody else didn't go to prison, so there is no cause of action. From a
Right, it
civil
really doesn't
standpoint.
help you, you know, maybe giving you closure, but that's it.
That's crazy.
Yeah, you know, I mean, short of dismissing the case, what else could the judge do?
Well, I think it boils down to the weight of the evidence, and that's a determination that's made. And I think that a judge, especially in this political climate in Broward County, would be hard pressed to do anything that they could to keep that case alive. Right? Wouldn't you think so? If they want to keep their seat on the bench.
Yeah.
It's a good point. It would be very tough to throw that case out.
Oh, for everybody out there, we're going to post Bill's campaign sign because he's running for 17th Judicial Circuit Judge in the next election.
Is that true?
Not that I've heard of.
Landslide.
Not that I've heard of.
Backed by the
You got my
Sun Sentinel, Comcast.
Oh, God.
Backed by
Time Warner.
state of arrest.
There's even people in California backing. I'm done.
That's true. Bill's got a lot of followers.
Colorado's a big state for Bill.
Yeah.
So what about DUI videos being tossed? So how do we win so many DUIs, disconnect cases, right? The police officers always say swaying, slurred speech, couldn't get out of the car. And then when the jury sees that video and they don't see those signs of impairment, they start fearing the officer more, especially when that argument's made in closing.
Sure.
Right? This officer lied. There's nothing more frightening than an officer that's out there lying to get convictions.
Yeah,
They toss those cases. So if the video evidence was destroyed, could you argue destruction of evidence and it would have exonerated your client?
Absolutely. Yeah.
What about
Sure.
what about the officer should have recorded it but didn't, and he violated policy by not recording the roadsides? Should that be dismissed?
Yeah.
That's
another argument that is made also. It's a due process violation. It depends on the facts of the case, but that's certainly when they have the ability to record it. Meaning
So they have the equipment.
Yeah,
or
they've got
duty.
the equipment in their car. They've got a policy that says, and most of the departments do have a policy nowadays that
Yep.
says that you shall or you must record whatever the
At a
situation
traffic
they're
stop.
describing.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm. And they don't turn their camera on, or for whatever reason it doesn't get recorded.
So there's bloodshot eyes, slurred speech, and unsteady on their feet. You know, maybe it was cut and pasted, and they didn't turn on the video for a reason.
Which in 2006 was a major issue because they were cutting and pasting constantly. And that was a big issue. Officers were reprimanded. I think a case or two was thrown out, and then that just whole issue disappeared. It still continues to this day. And bloodshot eyes, by the way, isn't a sign of impairment without something else tacked onto it, right, Bill?
Well,
according to
when we
Travis.
talk about Chris's scenario that he posed, we have to go outside of that and we have to look at the other evidence. For example, in his scenario that we've posed, if there's a video, not a video, if there's a breath test, and for example, the person blew a .231, well, you know what, that's going to be tough to overcome because that's strong evidence for the state that our client is impaired. But for on the other side of the coin, if we've got, say, a double refusal that our client didn't give a breath test, he didn't do anything, and they didn't record him on the roadside, essentially that turns the table on our client and makes our client now take the witness stand to defend himself.
Right.
He almost gives up his right to remain silent at that point in time.
Because they decided not to record.
Exactly right. If he didn't do that, then you know what, we would have the video, and the video would show everything, and he would not have to take the stand. But at this point in time, if the police officers get up there and say, well, I saw bloodshot eyes, I saw slurred speech, odor of alcoholic beverage, if they testify all this stuff and our client says nothing, that's tough. If our client, that then forces our client to get up there and defend himself in those cases,
Right.
making it a due process violation, and the entire process or the trial process is now fundamentally unfair.
Getting back to destruction of evidence or rendering evidence inadmissible, which is something that we do as criminal defense attorneys, you always want to get rid of the most powerful evidence that the state has. You want to get rid of all of the evidence that the state has.
Oh, yeah.
But just because you get rid of the video, if it's damaging to your case, doesn't mean that the state doesn't have that breath test. So then you've got to focus on getting rid of the breath test evidence or the eyewitnesses,
Sure.
independent videos. Officers that have recording equipment in their car, which is really only DUI task force that has dash mounted cameras.
Yeah.
kind of raise the issue now, because when we get DUI cases, we not only get the dash cam recordings, we're starting to get body cam recordings as well. We have DUIs with 4 or 5 sets of recordings. It's true, right?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so if the officer has recording equipment in their car, they have to keep their body cam rolling.
Yes.
It's a policy. They have to.
They have to.
So, in essence, they do have to record these things, I guess.
If it's a traffic stop, at least for BSO, that's the
That
policy.
turns into it. If it's a traffic stop, you mean with the body cams?
Yeah, they have to turn it on.
Yeah.
But do they have to, per se, keep the body cam on the suspect when they're performing the roadsides?
Good question.
Well, I would imagine that the officer noting the cues or lack of cues has to be looking at the individual performing the roadsides, and hence his body cam is facing them as well. His or her.
Typically, that's what you see.
Typically.
I was going to say.
Right.
Or facing, looking at this. Okay, I'm going to give you the instructions. No. Stay in that position while I give you the instructions. Clipboard in front of the
That would be
body
funny,
cam.
right?
Right? Totally.
I can tell you my experience has said that most of the time you get a decent view of the individual performing the exercise. It's not as good as a car cam, because a car cam, they place them and you get everything on there. The body cam, you're going to get a decent view, but like you guys said, they'll turn and they'll miss something, or sometimes they'll be, they'll get too much in the air, too much on the ground, but for the most part, it does a pretty good job of getting the person. Yeah.
Right. And it reminds me of a case that I had a while ago. I won't get into it. But if you're only getting segments, seeing the person walk and turn, and the officer's moving, you're seeing them walking perfectly, and they turn. Well, the officer's going to explain that these signs of impairment, they came through when he was off camera.
Right, they don't jive with the video.
Yeah.
Right, it doesn't jive with video, but there wasn't a complete video line, so
Yep.
all of these things happened. Oh, he stepped off the line 3 times when I turned away to look at the Dunkin' Donuts.
How
across the
convenient,
street.
yeah,
Right.
exactly.
I know I'm getting in so much trouble. It used to be that I'd get pulled over and not get a ticket because all the officers knew me. I'd let them off subpoenas if they had their kid's baseball game. But now all of my snide comments.
No,
I love Dunkin'
most
Donuts.
officers are really good.
No, they're awesome in Broward, if you know them. No, it's true. They're fantastic, right? Beat them up on the stand to death, win the case, embarrass them, see them out on the road, and they're as cool as you can imagine. Could you imagine if you were a cop, like when we were all cops,
You know what that?
prosecutors,
Yeah,
right?
those were the days.
Those were the days.
Most of the time, the police officers are pretty good about that, and they know that it's just, it's nothing personal against them. That it kind of everybody who's in the game has a role there, and essentially you're just doing your job, And I've had officers get up off the stand and say, "Wow, that was really good. You did a really good job,"
Yeah, and I've had them where you could clearly see their only goal is to beat you as a defense attorney, and the facts and truth have nothing to do with it. But
When
I guess,
does it?
Yeah, I guess that's rare. You don't see that often.
A lot of people believe. I think when we were prosecutors, we believed that we would get some leniency when it came to getting in trouble, speeding, reckless driving, whatnot. But there were arrests of prosecutors.
Sure.
You mean like driving home at 2 a.m. on a Friday night and you get pulled over?
I get to bed
Yeah.
by 9, 10 o'clock every night. This is serious business.
I've never had to use the fact that I was prosecutor to get out of a ticket.
Oh no, I did. Tried.
I tried.
The fact that I used to be a prosecutor. I worked for Mike 15 years ago. All right, sign here. You can either pay this or fight it.
Right.
Thanks, officer. Thanks for the courtesy. Anyway, guys, awesome show. Great having you in. And until next time.
Very good. Thanks.
All right, this is the 3 of us: William Moore, Bill Dorenzo, Chris O'Toole. State of arrest. See you next week.